Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host, Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co-author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Ken Wentworth. Ken is Fractional CFO, author, and a speaker. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Ken Wentworth. Ken, welcome.
Hi, Mohammed. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You can call me Siddique if you like to. And Ken, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Yeah, so I started out, I worked at a Fortune 15 company and climbed the corporate ladder to get in the top 3% there. But I got to a point where I decided I could be making a bigger impact, and it wasn't going to happen there. So I finally branched out and took the entrepreneurial route and didn't even know what I do now was a thing. I didn't know what a fractional CFO or an on-demand CFO, part-time CFO was, but branched out, did that. And in the midst of that, created a couple of different things, became the host of Mr. Biz Radio, which now airs for 55 hours a week, which has just been crazy, the growth we've had there. I've written 2 best-selling books. I developed a continuity program to reach startups and smaller companies to make it affordable for them, called Mr. Biz Solutions. I also have an online course. And then in the midst of all that, Siddique, I've broken 6 world records as well. So it's been a busy time in my life here the last, 15, 20 years.
6 records. Tell us more.
6 bench press world records on the drug tested side. It's been crazy. I started competing. I was working out, really got into it. And really, I'm a very competitive person. I'm very goal driven. And I was fortunate enough to win some national championships, which qualified me for the world championships. And then once I won several of those, the next step was trying to do something that no one had ever done before and breaking world records. And then once I broke one of those, I wanted to break another one. So just.
Oh my God. Imagination is the limit. You do not believe in any boundaries. That's what I can tell for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. What are the top 3 mistakes to avoid?
Wow, the top 3. So the first one I would say is that I saw this in the corporate world, and I see it now in the small business world, is that we often we overcomplicate things. And I think really trying to keep it simple. And one of the ways to do that, I've found, Siddique, is to find an expert. Probably some of the things that you're trying to accomplish, someone has already done or done something very similar. Find an expert who's already accomplished some of the things that you're trying to accomplish and model their behavior. Don't copy it. I'm not saying to, be a copycat, but model their behavior. They've already forged a path that you might as well take advantage of that and find out how to do that. The second mistake I would say to avoid is the mistake of not taking action. A lot of people have ideas and they talk a lot, but they do, Siddique, what I call, and it's kind of funny, I call it faking the funk. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, right? They just have ideas and they end up being, another funny side note to that is they end up being a flat squirrel. And I always say that the road is riddled with flat squirrels who couldn't make a decision, right? They start across the road and they can't decide, should I go across, should I come back? And they end up flat in the middle of the road. So taking action is super, super important. And so avoid not taking action, right? Don't wait for everything to be perfect. It never will be. And then the third mistake to avoid is not knowing your numbers. Of course, as a numbers nerd myself, a CFO, you have to know your numbers. The numbers drive everything in your business. You could have the best business idea. You could work the hardest of anybody. But if you don't know your numbers, eventually your business will fail.
Wonderful. So how many years you invested at a corporate world and then figure out this is not the path I wanted to be?
Yeah, so I guess I worked in the corporate world for 22 years. And I have nothing bad to say about it. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And as a matter of fact, it gave me the skills and the expertise now and experience that I needed to do what I do now. So, and I was treated very well there. It just got to a point where I'd always had an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to do something on my own. And I just had never taken the leap. And so I finally decided after a couple of revenue generating ideas that I had got kind of shelved because of some of the typical big company things, bureaucracy, red tape, et cetera. I decided, okay, now is the time. I needed to make the leap and I can make a bigger impact outside of the corporate world. And, I didn't know what it was, as I mentioned, but I knew that I was confident in myself that I would be able to figure it out.
So it looks like you can handle this question. I'm putting you on a spot right now. Once
Okay.
you have the revenue generating idea, how do you convince your significant other to get a yes on that side? You know why I'm asking this?
Yeah. So it's funny. My wife's a nurse. So Mrs. Biz is a nurse. So completely non-business. And the funny part of the story is when I decided I was going to leave the corporate world, Siddique, I had made the decision. I was the company I worked for, JP Morgan. So I was in LaGuardia Airport in New York, and I called my wife, and I was waiting for my plane to take off. And I said, ironically enough, I was in the top 3% there, and I was being promoted in the top 1%. And I told my wife that news, and she got all excited. She said, "Oh my gosh, all your hard work, this is fantastic." And I said, "No, by the way, I'm going to leave." And she said, "Oh, so your plane's leaving? You have to hang up the phone?" And I said, "No, I'm going to resign." And there was a long pause at the other end of the phone, Siddique, and she said, "Did you get to the airport early? Have you been drinking?" And I said, "No, I'm going to resign." And she said, "Well, why don't you take a nap on the plane ride home, and we'll talk about when you get home." And once I explained to her, what I, where I was frustrated in the corporate world and how I wanted to make a bigger impact and start creating a legacy for myself, to be honest with you, she understood. And the only part she didn't understand, Siddique, was she said, "So what is it you're going to do?" Because my wife is not an entrepreneurial type person, right? So her idea is if you have a job, you need to have another job lined up, right? And I didn't have that. I didn't know what it was going to be. But she had seen, some of the successes I had, and she was confident, I think, had a confidence in me that I would figure it out. And thankfully, I'm blessed to have figured it out. And I'll tell you, I am so blessed, Siddique, because I absolutely love what I do. I don't work a day in my life because I absolutely love it.
Wonderful. Let's talk about I'm sure you did some failures too. So what's your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Yeah, I would say probably my greatest failure, and looking back, and I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, is I didn't leave the corporate world soon enough. And again, nothing against the corporate world, and I had a great career. But I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I always wanted to have my own business, and I was one of those people that didn't take action soon enough. Again, I'm very happy now, but I look back now and say I probably should have made that leap, maybe even 10 years earlier. Now, that being said, I needed the experience to be able to do what I do now, right? No one's going to hire me if I have 5 years of experience, right? So I needed to gain that experience in the corporate world. But I think it's super important. And I should say, I don't consider anything a failure. I consider everything as a learning experience. I know that Thomas Edison, when he was creating the light bulb, supposedly inventing the light bulb, it took him 1,000 times to invent it and actually be successful. And someone said, "Why did you never give up?" And he said, "Well, I figured out 999 ways that it won't work." And so I think that's a good way to think about things, is not necessarily a failure, but what can you learn from it, as you said?
Yeah, wonderful. What are your top 3 success secrets that others can model from? And please give us your best ones, okay? You are the CFO.
Yeah, so I'd say the top 3, really, probably the number one success secret that I see, regardless of whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, in your personal life, in your family life, in your relations, is you have to be willing. Life is always going to throw you curveballs. Life is always going to have challenges. No matter how smart you are, no matter how hard you work, you're always going to have those. So to be successful, the number one thing I think that people need to have is what I call consistent perseverance. You have to know that when life knocks you down, you have to consistently persevere and get back up. And that's the number one thing I think that separates people who are successful from people who aren't as successful. The second thing I would mention in regards to success secrets is, in order to scale your business, you have to learn how to delegate. And a lot of folks that start their company, especially as a solopreneur, and then they begin to grow and they have to hire people and hire and hire and hire, right, as you scale, it's difficult to let go of some of those duties because you have a certain way you want them done, and you're afraid that no one's going to do it like you do. You have to learn how to delegate. Otherwise, you will absolutely stifle your business, and you will not be able to scale your business probably the way you want. And then the third success secret, which kind of leads on from the second one, is as you're hiring people, and this one is critically important. And I learned this specifically in the corporate world, and what I've taken into now the entrepreneurial world, is when you're hiring people, don't focus so much on their technical skills. what I tell people all the time is to hire folks based on their character, their loyalty, and their work ethic. Siddique, if you give me someone who has those three characteristics and they're very strong in those three, I can teach them anything. I can send them to a class. I can have them shadow me. I can teach them almost anything because those people will work really hard for you. They'll be very loyal, and they will have a vested interest in becoming successful in your company. And so that is very, very important in hiring the best people.
Yeah, like a hire for attitude and train for skills. That's what you really meant. So, yeah. So we are about to start a lightning round. Quick question and quick answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. What is the impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
Ooh, impactful book. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And what I learned from it was that we are thinking too small. We limit ourselves and we need to think bigger.
Can I see the book?
I don't have the book with me, no. Actually, I have it on my bookshelf. Sorry.
Please, can you bring it? I want to see it. Yeah.
It is 10X Rule, Grant Cardone.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So how do you overcome and challenge life throws at you?
Well, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, consistent perseverance. I don't look at things again. I think the mindset is super important in that don't view things as a failure, because again, as I mentioned, life is always going to create challenges for you. You have to not consider them a failure. Don't take them personally. Think of it as a learning opportunity. Mm-hmm. What can you learn from it? What can you do and decide those challenges that I was faced with, how can I make sure that they don't happen again? What changes can I make to ensure that I don't encounter that challenge again? So I think that's really important. But it starts with mindset. You have to not think about, oh my gosh, woe is me, here we go again. Think about it as a learning opportunity, learn from it and grow.
How young are you? Okay.
I literally just turned the big 50, Siddique. I just turned 50.
50?
Yes.
You are not 50. Let me tell you that part. You are 18 years old with a 32 years experience.
There you go. I like it.
So what do you want to do when you grow up?
What I want to do when I grow up, I want to be able to create a legacy to where that when I'm gone, I've of course left the earth a better place than when I was on it, and the many different forms and fashions. I want to help business owners. There's too many businesses, especially with the pandemic, that are failing. I want to make sure that I get my name out there so they know that I can help them, and because I could help them save their business and really run it more profitably, more efficiently.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for being a good person who was always willing to help.
Who is always willing to help. Great. Mm-hmm. Great. So what are you grateful for today?
Oh my gosh, I'm grateful for having another day on this earth. Honestly, every day I'm thankful that I get another day. I mean, we're not promised tomorrow. And so I think that's one of the things that people get short-sighted with. And there's so many different things happening, especially again with the pandemic that we've all been living through globally. You just don't know. You're not promised tomorrow. So I'm thankful for every single day that I wake up.
How can we support you?
Follow me on social media. So we've got, if you look for Mr. Biz, you'll find me, the YouTube channel, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, love Clubhouse, LinkedIn. We share free content on those channels several times every single week. So definitely do that. And by the way, anyone who wants for your listeners, Siddique, anyone who wants a free copy of my first best-selling book, How to Be a Cash Flow Pro, just shoot us an email, orders@MrBizSolutions.com. That's orders@MrBizSolutions.com, and we'll get you a free copy.
Wonderful, wonderful. MrBizSolutions.com, and the link is on your screen right now. Go and visit. I did look at the site. It's worth looking at it. Let me tell you, because over there, the Ken looks way younger in the glasses. Okay. So we are about to wrap up. I'd like to have a few words about your being a guest experience on the show. What would you say about your today's guest experience on the show?
Honestly, Siddique, it's been great. I was very excited when you reached out to me and asked me to be a guest, and then I listened to a few of your shows. saw the format, and I love the format of being able to share things. I hope a lot of listeners are able to get a lot of good things out of it. I know when I listened to some of your prior shows, I was able to pick out some really good nuggets from some of your former guests. So really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And what would you say as a final word?
My final word as a CFO, I will tell you that you hear all these statistics about businesses that fail. 82% of businesses that fail due to cash flow problems. So what I would tell every business owner out there, every entrepreneur, always remember that if you don't have cash, you don't have a business. So cash flow is king.
It's not a cash is not a king. Cash flow is the king, basically. That's what
right. Yes.
Cash flow is the king. That's my last word. Thank you so much, Ken, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.